first and foremost, I would want to express profound appreciation for the contributions both guys made to the organization, both on and off the field. In Tyler's case, we've had the chance to be around him for a really long time, and he's not only made meaningful and memorable contributions on the field, but as part of the fabric of our clubhouse. And Delino, hard to script a more difficult transition to an organization than the one he had to make last year. And he really did so seamlessly, despite some really trying circumstances. And again, just grateful for the contributions both guys have made. And we'll remain interested in, staying in touch with them as we go throughout the winter and keep the possibility of them rejoining the team open. All this means is just we were not in a position at this point to commit to going through the arbitration process with them.
So Chris, how would you assess just the state of the outfield as it stands now? It seems like you have a lot of young players who maybe you got a little bit of a feel for last year, and then some who you didn't really get that chance. Is it going to be difficult to try to parse through all of that and determine who might be ready to play a lot next year?
I'm only smiling, Zach, because the way you framed it is probably the way I would have answered the question, is that we do have a number of young outfielders that we think have the potential to really contribute. That may have been one of the biggest impacts of last season, in that we were hopeful that we would not only have major league, but minor league opportunities for that group of players to play and play regularly. And that information would both, one, help them with their development, but also allow us to make some more informed decisions about them. Unfortunately, we didn't have that. That wasn't the reality. So we'll go into the offseason with a little bit less certainty than we may have hoped. But it's a group of players we still believe in and believe have a chance to contribute at the major league level.
Chris, how do you approach this offseason, spending-wise, not knowing if you're going to have fans in the stands, for income for next season? So how do you approach this?
Yeah, Jeff, that's a question that everyone in the industry is grappling with. I think, each team will look at their own circumstances differently because there is so much uncertainty about what they expect for next year. In our case, we've looked at a range of different scenarios that consider a lot of different factors and how that may impact what our revenue might be and what resources that would allow us to spread across the organization. So we'll continue to get additional information as the weeks go by, and that will influence and impact how we think about things for next year.
You guys still want Oscar Mercado to kind of take the reins and prove that he can be your center fielder moving forward?
Yeah, Oscar is within that group of guys, Zach, that we're hopeful can continue to make progress on their development this offseason and come into spring training next year ready to take hold of a spot. We've all seen what he's capable of doing, and the performance he's had at the major league level. So we know it's in there, and we continue to partner with Oscar to try to get him back on that path of being a really good major league player.
Chris, what have you thought about Nolan Jones and the outfield? Or is that going to be a focus for him in spring training?
I do think we will continue to explore positional flexibility for Nolan. We've seen it firsthand with some other players that it's difficult to forecast exactly where that major league opportunity will be. And the more versatility players have to impact the major league team, the better. We're not too far removed from Jose Ramirez transitioning to our major league team as a left fielder, third baseman, and shortstop when he played most of his time in the minor leagues as a second baseman. So we've seen firsthand just how valuable that versatility can be in creating an opportunity at the major league level. And to Nolan's credit, he's worked really hard, and I know I've shared this with the group in the past. He's an incredible worker and a really good athlete from his hockey playing days as a youth. So we believe he'll be able to transition and play the outfield effectively for us if that's where the opportunity might be.
Chris, what's the deal with Hedges? Is he got to get a qualifying offer or something? Or
no, he's arbitration eligible. He remains in the arbitration process.
How do you feel about him?
We feel we go into the offseason with two elite defensive catchers. our pitching staff has been really successful over the course of the past few seasons, and I think they would be the first to point to our catchers as being instrumental in the performance of the pitching staff. And we wanted to make sure we maintain that strength moving forward and feel that we've done that with, again, having two elite defensive catchers in Roberto Perez and Austin Hedges.
Chris,
Hey, Lindsay, go ahead.
do you see Naylor as more a first baseman or an outfielder?
Yes. He could be either, Paul. So again, I think a lot of it will just depend upon the right combination of players, and so we'll have to work off that. But we view him to be capable in either of those two places, and would be comfortable playing him in either the outfield or at first base, depending on how we can build the best team with a group of players we have.
When you're looking at second base, what do who is there right now, or who are your candidates right now?
Well, Yu Chang is one that obviously he has the major league experience, and is the most natural player on our roster that could fit in that role. We have a depth of minor league players that potentially could fill that role, but we won't have a great sense of that, Paul, until we get to spring training, because a lot of those players haven't played in a competitive setting in over a year. So to try to assess exactly where they are in their development and readiness to contribute at the major league levels, tough to say. But I do think infield will be a place as we go throughout the offseason where we'll potentially look to add some players to the mix.
Chris, how do you feel about Major League Baseball cutting everybody's farm teams to, it's 4 farm teams, right?
It is. It's 4 full season minor league teams, and then we also will have some players out in Arizona and have complex league baseball. So I think, Terry, I understand the rationale for why Major League Baseball chose to go down this path, and I know I've shared it with the group in the past. Our responsibility is to take the system that's in place and do the best we can with it. And so we'll now adjust to the new minor league system and find a way to succeed with a smaller minor league footprint.
Just because I was thinking with whether it's you or Kansas City, those guys, Tampa, minor leagues is what makes it. And I realize sometimes it is a numbers game, and the minors just kind of let them sort themselves out. So you lose a team, I think it hurts you guys more than, say, Boston or something.
Well, I think, Terry, what we've seen is all teams, regardless of market size, had invested in both player acquisition and player development. I think the Yankees may have led baseball with 9 or 10 minor league teams. So while it certainly affects us, it affects every team throughout the game. So I think the hope is that we can maybe grow a little bit more efficient in player development, and then also, and as importantly, make sure that we're providing the best developmental environment for the players that are within our minor league system. And hopefully the new framework allows us to do that.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Terry.
Chris, I was a minute or two late. I apologize if you've been over this already. I wanted to bring up the Lindor that's in the room. Have you actively told teams that you are shopping him and the best offer will get him?
Tom, yeah, you missed it. We covered that already.
I figured so.
I appreciate you asking, Tom. I know it's a topic that's top of mind for everyone, but we'll continue to, we've never commented on, trade rumors or speculation in the past, and we'll continue to refrain from doing that.
Is it just rumors and speculation at this point, though, Chris? Because it seems like you guys are in a position where something's got to break.
It's fair for people to speculate, but again, I'm not going to get in the business of saying yes, no, maybe on any specific player or concept. I'm happy to talk about our approach to the offseason, but we'll continue to refrain from talking about specific players.
I appreciate.
Again, I understand the need to ask.
I appreciate you feeling the grounder.
Yep.
Chris, you touched on it a minute ago, but in regards to the payroll, it's such a wonky offseason. Do you have a figure yet? I know you're probably not going to tell us what it is, but do you have a hard number yet of what the payroll has to be? And is there still money you have to trim from it from where it stands right now?
Yeah, Jason, we do not have a hard specific number for payroll. I think as we all are living in a very uncertain world, there are a lot of variables out there right now, and we're hopeful as we gain more information over the coming weeks that will become a little bit more clear to us as to what we might be able to do.
Do you suspect you'll have to trim more from where it stands now?
I think what we'll continue to try to do, and we've talked about this even prior to the pandemic, is that we want to make sure we manage our roster and finances in a way that give us a chance to be sustainably competitive. We've made a series of moves going back 18 or 24 months now that have been designed to do that, and have helped put us in a position today where, you know, we do have a bright future. We have a lot of good young major league players. We have a healthy farm system, and so if there are opportunities for us to continue to build on that base, we will explore it.
Thanks.
Chris, at the beginning of last season, there was a lot of talk about a name change for the team. Have you guys decided whether or not you will be changing the name? And if so, where does the organization stand right now as far as that's concerned?
You know, we continue to work through that process, Emmett. As we shared, you know, we wanted to make sure we were thoughtful and connecting with all of the different stakeholders, and we've been engaged in those conversations over the course of the last several months. I've personally participated in some of those and have been enlightened by the conversation, and we'll continue that process. And once we're at a point where we have more information to share, we'll certainly do that.
Thanks.
Thank you. Paul, you're on mute, Paul. If I see your mouth moving, I presume you're asking a question.
Okay. With Jeffrey Rodriguez, what was the thinking there? I mean, just, you know, non-tendering him. He wasn't eligible for arbitration. Did you just want to create space on the 40-man, or what went into that?
Yeah, it was a little bit of managing a roster. It gets into some complicated Major League Baseball rules, but effectively it was a way for us to remove Jeffrey from the roster, but not limit our options with him moving forward. So we can continue, we could re-sign him back to either a major or minor league deal without restrictions at this point. And by non-tendering, that gave us the most flexibility to do that.
Chris, how has his rehab gone? I know he was struggling with his back throughout summer camp and throughout the season. Has he shown improvements?
He has. He's now back home in the Dominican and beginning to build up strength in a normal offseason. So our expectation is that he would be able to come into spring training healthy and ready to compete for a spot. And we do maintain interest in bringing Jeffrey back. And I shared that with him yesterday when I informed him of the non-tender.
Chris, with Shane Bieber winning the Cy Young Award and, you know, candidate for making the All MLB team later on this week, have you approached his representation about possible contract extension or a deal or something like that? Is that something that you guys are looking at?
Yeah, I know this will be a frustrating answer for the group, but consistent with how I've answered that question in the past, you know, again, we'll refrain from getting into conversations on specific players and contract negotiations. But I think Shane embodies everything we would want a Cleveland Indian to be, both in the way he competes, the way he prepares, you know, how he leads on and off the field. So again, our hope and belief is that Shane will be here for a long time, and couldn't be any more excited that he will be an anchor of our rotation for the foreseeable future.
Chris, is Franmil Reyes still in the outfield mix, or is he at DH?
Yes, I mean, if you ask Franmil, I think he's in the infield mix too. So if anyone saw him take ground balls there pregame last year, he was pretty into it. But Franmil is committed that he does not want to be a DH, and he's demonstrated last year he wants to put in the work to be an option for us in the outfield. I think that's probably where we see him more likely than him playing, you know, second base for us. But as we've told Franmil, like, we will be building the best team, and if we can build the best team with him being an outfielder for us or playing a position, that would be ideal. And he's working to be an option to do that.
Chris, what kind of year do you think he had at the plate? Because it was like, I guess it was like really good in the middle, but
yeah, like probably a handful of our other players, a bit inconsistent. There were times and stretches where he was locked in and did a really good job of controlling the strike zone and putting good swings on pitches when he got them. But there were other times he was less consistent than that, and that led him to have an inconsistent season. So I think we are really excited about the potential of Franmil piecing that together and having a consistently productive season next year, because although he now has some major league experience, he's still pretty young in his development, and we're really excited about what he's capable of doing, especially over a full season, Terry.
Chris, as far as first base goes, is that an area where you're looking at internal candidates, or is that something where you hope to want to address in free agency?
We do feel we have a number of internal candidates. I know I probably grouped it as an outfield, but it probably extends to first base as an area where, we just weren't able to get guys minor league plate appearances, and that affected, our ability to learn about their development last year. So guys like Jake Bowers and Bobby Bradley and Josh Naylor, who could factor into that, they didn't have a full season last year, but those are guys that will be in the mix, and again, that we feel are capable of contributing at the major league level.
Daniel Johnson has impressed at least in spring training in the past. Just where does he stand in terms of possibly fitting into that picture?
He's one of those guys that'll be right in the mix. Again, I expect as we sit here today that we will have a lot of competition on the position player side going into spring training, the outfield and the infield. And so Daniel will be right squarely in that mix.
Chris, when you look at the shortstops that are in the minors, say Freeman or some of these guys, who would be a couple of these guys that are maybe not ready to be their opening day, but perhaps at some point next year?
Again, Terry, it's a little bit difficult to say because we've just missed a good chunk of time last year, but the most immediate options are those that are on our 40-man roster. So Yu Chang, Gabriel Arias, Ernie Clement are all guys that are on the 40-man roster already. And then, Tyler Freeman, among that other group, Tyler Freeman was probably the most advanced of the rest of the players. So those are a handful of the options at the upper levels of our minor leagues.
I thought Clement was a utility guy, or am I wrong on that?
He's played second, short. He's played the outfield, so he could factor in at any of those spots or as a utility guy.